Hi, I'm winter-simat. Thank you for joining me here on Conscious Educators, where we look at this potential role of education in contributing to this cultural transition from this current paradigm characterized by separation and competition and scarcity to this emerging paradigm characterized by interconnectedness and abundance and collaboration and other-orientedness. Today, I want to talk about this concept of the individual and the whole, and the tension often that we find between the two. In education, we often see this as the tension or competition between the needs of the individuals, the students that we work with, and the needs or demands of the larger whole, the larger system or structure that we find ourselves in. And it's this tension that causes a lot of teachers to burn out and leave education. Now, the needs of the individuals and needs of the whole, sometimes they overlap and sometimes they don't. I want to look a little bit deeper into why this is and what we can do. When we zoom out and look at society, we see that this is a common theme, this tension between individuals and wholes. We can look at it and say that it might be the tension between Eastern philosophy and Western philosophy. We can see the tension between, in ethics, communitarian, and an ethics, a feminist ethics of care, and utilitarianism on the other side. We could, even for Star Trek nerds out there, look at the tension between Captain Kirk and Mr. Spock. Now, whenever we encounter these kind of dualisms, I think it's important that we try to reframe, to see them rather than in competition with one another, to find a way to integrate them into some sort of sympoetic or collaborative whole where these are in a relationship of mutuality rather than competition. And so if we can reframe this individual and collectives as one whole that's working towards something bigger and better rather than a tension between two opposing sides, and I think we have somewhere that we can move forward in this new story of interbeing. We can see this currently in this global pandemic where individuals are risking their own health and safety and lives for the benefit of others, for the whole. And others are restricting themselves, restricting their own freedom for the benefit of others, for the benefit of society. When this is done from a sense of generosity and willingness, it's a really beautiful thing. This is the story of heroes, and this is what makes great movies and novels. This is a part of the hero's journey, is self-sacrifice, and the thing that the hero does gain actually brings it back for the benefit of the community. However, when this is not done freely, but enforced from the outside, the beauty of this action diminishes really quickly. I think there needs to be both a willingness and a benefit returning from the collective. I think to better understand how we can move from the individual and the whole being separate and in competition to being integrated, I think we need to redefine the individual and the whole. Now, in the old story, the story of separation in the current paradigm, an individual is a separate and discrete self that acts on other selves and objects and on the world from a place of separation and a place that is distant, and there's a boundary where I end and the other begins, where I end and the world starts. Now, from all of our understandings of systems, science, and humanities, we know that this is not true in any way. It is an absolute myth. We are never separate from everything else in the world. We're absolutely, in a radical way, interconnected with everything else. The idea that we are a separate self is a mental construct. The air that we breathe is a part of the process of innumerable other organisms. The food that we eat is a part of insects and bacteria and the work of plants and animals all over the world. Even our own bodies, the number of bacteria and viruses and fungi and microorganisms on and in our bodies outnumber our own cells. We are not a discrete and separate self. We are a part of everything else. Now, does this mean that there is no individual? Not at all. There's still an individual, but it's not a separate material self from everything else. I think that what the individual is a unique set of relationships. It's the unique, continually emerging, authentic individual that's in these generative and mutualistic relationships. It's like a blossoming or happening. And when it is contributing to the health in others and health in the larger whole, then again, it's a beautiful occurrence. When it's self-serving and trying to act in a separate way, counter to reality, it becomes dysfunctional and pathological. In a body, we would call these cells cancerous. Now, I think we also need to redefine what a whole is. In the old story, the whole is a rule or structure-oriented collection of independent individuals. So if we take those separate selves and we put them in a larger group, and often to organize them, we need to use structures or hierarchies or rules to define all those relationships. The relationships are often seen as linear and mechanistic, and there has to be exterior rules placed on them to organize them. I think we need to redefine this to understand groups more true to reality, because that is a human construct that we don't see anywhere else in the natural world. I think that true collectives, true groups that are healthy and dynamic and growing are other-oriented collectives or systems or organisms that thrive on the unique, diverse, and interdependent parts of which they're made. So there becomes this mutualistic relationship between the unique becoming of the individuals, their other-oriented and generative mutualistic relationships, and this thriving and growing and changing whole that creates this environment for the individual to thrive. So the thriving is in a loop where the whole depends on the health of the individual, and the individual depends on the health of the whole. Now, the whole cannot be healthy if all of its parts are homogeneous or the same. It depends on diversity and uniqueness. In a biological system, if I demanded all of my cells to all be liver cells, I could be the most efficient and powerful liver ever. But without a body to support it, I would die quickly. What I need is diversity, and each cell to be uniquely and authentically doing what it was designed and created to do. Only through this diversity and contributing to a larger, healthy becoming can something like life thrive. So if we bring these ideas back to education, the question is, how do we create these educational environments that require the thriving of unique, diverse individuals to contribute to this thriving educational environment? There has to be a relationship, a mutual relationship between the two. And it can't start in any one place. It has to start with sort of an emergent property of relationships, of interconnectedness between parts, between educators, administrators, and learners, parents, community members that start to get together and create maybe a bubble of that mutuality, of that kind of living ecosystem that thrives on individuals being their whole, unique, authentic selves in relationships that are mutualistic and generative. In this way, neither the individual or the collective or the group is the end priority. Neither one is a means to an end. They're actually working together towards the health and development of each other. If we can redesign education in this way, where the whole healthy development of the individuals, their unique, authentic selves developing and blossoming, and their relationships being generative and mutualistic, contributes to this healthier, bigger whole this emergent property, this community that develops. Then we've created education that is self-perpetuating. It creates the environment where better education, whole, healthy human development can thrive. I don't believe education should be about raising up young people to send out in the world. It's about setting in motion the kind of human development, the kind of authentic human becoming that continues on and creates spaces for others to become their full, authentic, unique selves. It's a perpetuating cycle rather than preparing and sending out. Thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoyed digging into this topic a little bit, and thanks for being a part of this cultural transition towards these more integrated and beautiful ways of being in the world. I'll see you next time.